Okay. All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to this, our 20th episode of hopefully many episodes of Bard Advice, a D&D advice podcast where I, Yazik, Charles, Chaz, the DM, the Bard, etc., do my best to answer any questions that you might have regarding D&D, tabletop RPGs, or life in general. Hope everybody's doing okay. Now, last week, well, we'll get into that in a second. At the start of the show, as we usually do, let's remind everybody of the email, which is bardadvice@gmail.com. This is the location for all of your queries, complaints, comments, concerns, and most importantly, questions. So send those, please, to bardadvice@gmail.com. Be happy to take a look at them and maybe answer them on the show. You can grab your merchandise over at manshorts.com, as always. And if you're interested in contributing to my album, which I could use a little help with right now just because I'm organizing the beats and whatnot and paying for all the stuff, you can donate to that directly or contribute to that directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Y-A-H-Z-I-C-K. So, welcome. Welcome back, everybody. I don't have an art corner this week. I thought we could talk a little playtest stuff. But before we do all of that, last week there was a bit of an issue where the audio version of this podcast was not available until like Monday. So sorry for that, for all the listeners. Discovered an issue with YouTube wherein you're not so much able to readily download your VODs as you once were able to. It's been a recent issue. I don't know if this has something to do with a change they've made or what, but these days it's starting. It can take almost a full day for me to have the VOD available for download, and that is no bueno because that means that I have no real access to it. So what I'm going to do, hopefully to resolve that, is record while I stream. And I think because all of my resolutions are the same and everything, it shouldn't be any extra work for my machine, and hopefully, I won't have to even worry about the VOD because I'll just have a hard copy on my PC. That's a little behind-the-scenes stuff that's not necessarily needed, but just wanted to let kind of everybody know what the holdup was there and how I hope to resolve that moving forward in the future. So hopefully there's not any issues on this episode. It doesn't seem that there are as we're moving on. So, my first question this evening is about the playtest stuff that they recently released. And if I'm honest, I didn't look at too much of it, or rather I haven't looked at it in too much depth as I probably should. But since I saw the question a couple of days ago, I've been kind of looking into it. So I thought we could talk about that and see kind of what everybody's feelings are. I don't know if anybody else has looked through playtest stuff that's out about like all the weapons and stuff. I've got a list here of what everything is. And other notes that I had. Oh, there was a question that we got on an episode several ones back. I don't remember. Excuse me. And the question, it was probably from a Chris. The question was, what would your first fun spend be if you won the lottery? Being like, you take care of all of your people, all of the necessities, right? The requirements. But then what would your first fun spend be? I figured it out. I know what it is. And it hit me like a ton of bricks the other day. I want to see an NBA game in every NBA stadium. Or I guess arena. And then I would probably do the others. Like I would want to probably do football and hockey just to have said that I did it. But that would be, I would really want to do that. That would just be a bunch of money to just blow for no real reason other than just being able to go and see. That would be super cool. I'd buy a QP, a White Widow, and Strawberry Cough. Yeah. I mean, but that, I feel like that should be on the necessities list. That's not even necessarily a fun spend for me, at least. I feel like stuff like that would be already on there. Like extracurricular is basketball for me. So let's get into some questions. As I said, the first one here is about the play testing. Oh, and you're not even gonna believe this, gang. I have a list of names. Man, I'm so on top of it. I can't stand it. There's an I've said them less though. I'll say noticeably so. Maybe just my being aware of the fact that I'm trying to stop it will help that. Probably. I'm trying to trick myself into not saying it anymore. So this first question is from Lauren, and it simply is, thoughts on the new playtest material? Keep up the great content. Thank you very much, Lauren. I'm glad you enjoy the stuff. As I said earlier, I have not had an opportunity to truly dive into it, but I do have the PDF up. So let's look at it together. Yeah? Give me 1 second to... Is it this one? Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not on the screen with you, but that's okay. We can look at this thing together. So, and I can even... Can I make it bigger? Yeah. There we go. So, the newest stuff, I guess, is mostly about weapons. It looks like what they've done. Now, from what I understand, they have made some minor adjustments to individual weapons. I think the Trident does different damage than it used to. Maybe different than a regular spear. Some other minor changes, but the real changes are these mastery properties. So, I guess they assigned one of these mastery properties to every weapon, which, I gotta be honest, seems a little bit like kind of a waste of time. Not to say that the masteries themselves are, but the idea that they would only be assigned to a particular weapon. And then, I mean, it just seems like a lot of time spent that's like, what do we do? Spend that time coming up with feats. Why wouldn't you just create all of these property masteries and then just allow them to be assigned to whatever weapon? I don't know. It seems overcomplicated. But anyway, they've got cleave, which is cool because, I mean, I don't know if this is the same as, maybe it is. This is the original type cleave. Like essentially, okay, so you hit with a melee attack, then you can make an attack roll with the weapon against the second creature within 5 feet, which is a 5-foot step. So then there's flex. When you hit with a melee attack using this weapon, you deal its versatile damage, even if you're wielding it with one hand. Graze, if your attack roll with this weapon misses a creature, you can deal damage to that creature equal to the ability modifier you use to make the attack roll. This damage is the same type dealt by the weapon, and the damage can't be increased in any way other than increasing the modifier. Then there is Nick. When you make the extra attack of the light property, you can make it as part of the attack action instead of as a bonus action. You could still make this extra attack only once per turn. Push. If you hit a creature with this weapon, you can push them 10 feet away from you if it is no more than one size larger than you. Sap. If you hit a creature with this weapon, creature has disadvantage on its next attack roll, which seems insane. If you hit a creature with this weapon and deal damage to... slow. If you hit a creature with this weapon and deal damage to the creature, you can reduce its speed by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. Also seems insane. If you hit the creature more than once with this property, the speed reduction doesn't exceed 10 feet. Topple. If you hit a creature with this weapon, you can force the creature to make a con save. DC equal to 8 plus proficiency plus ability mod you use to make the attack roll. On a failed save, the creature has the prone condition. Vex, if you hit a creature with this weapon and deal damage to the creature, you have advantage on your next attack roll against that creature before the end of your next turn. Now, it seems to me that, so that was a lot of reading. It seems to me that you could just have those things exist and assign them to whatever weapon you want and then justify it however you want. I mean, you can do that anyway, right? Obviously, homebrew. But it just seems like yikes. How much time did we spend assigning all of these properties to different weapons? You know? Probably more. They probably spent more time assigning them than they did coming up with them, and that's troublesome. It just seems a little... It's like, okay, all right. I see that getting broken pretty quickly. I mean, notably, 2-weapon fighting with, like, Sap and Vex. I'll do that all day. All day. Advantage. I mean, if you're a fighter, what? Okay. So this was from a Reddit post I found as to the updates, because I don't want to go through all of it. It's 50 pages. I did just want to go through the masteries. But this was some notes that I found on a Reddit post. So according to this, the next UA will be 50 pages, have 5 classes, more feats, and new weapon mastery system. There's the new mastery property on each weapon, which is unlocked by having a weapon mastery feature via class or feat. Which, you know. Then, let's see, fighter goes even further. At high levels, can change the properties on weapons, then eventually put 2 properties on a single weapon and decide which to use on each attack. That's nasty. So they've built that in. You don't even have to do what I said earlier. You could just be a high-level fighter and just have to... It feels broken. But that's only because to accomplish that kind of stuff with weapons in 3.5, you had to enchant them, which was expensive and, you know, not always easy to do, even if you had the gold, you know, depending on the DM. Obviously, it depends on the DM if the DM just gives you whatever you want. But, I don't know. It seems like a lot. But maybe not. I don't know. What does chat think? It's trip, disarm, but without the feats. They want to keep... Yeah, it seems to be just like things that you can already do in combat. They've just like... They've assigned... I mean, they're a little bit better, I guess, as to doing... I don't know. What does topple do? Let's go back to that. Let me pull that up. How do I do that? This one. What does topple do? Topple. If you hit a creature with this weapon, you can force the creature to make a con save equal to a failed save, they're prone. Yeah, I mean, that's just tripping. That's what you would do. You would just make a trip attempt in 3.5. Wouldn't you do that in 5e, or is there no tripping in 5e? And that's why they're adding it. They're just 3.5 combat maneuvers. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Okay, this is the real question. Does tripping exist in 5e? Because I genuinely don't know. If it doesn't, then this is just how they're adding that, which is a weird place to add it. Some monsters have trip. Okay, so then it's not like a common thing that you can do. Because it's a thing you can do in 3.5. You can just opt to attempt to trip someone. Didn't we have this conversation about Sunder? Yeah, this is the same thing. So they've just okay, so no for 5e. Wow, interesting. So instead of just making it feels overcomplicated, yeah? Because a lot of these are just like combat type maneuvers. The idea that you could trip someone, well, in 3.5, you would just, how would you do it, right? You attack their flat-footed? I mean, there's mechanics for this stuff. Grab is a thing. I don't think that grapple is a thing either. They don't account for it in any way. Certainly not from like an action perspective. Now this just seems to like overcomplicate it, and then not to mention it's like only certain weapons can do certain things, so that's kind of lame. So I can't get the weapon that I like visually and make it do the cool thing that I want to do. I mean, I'm the kind of person that would run into a problem with that immediately, because I would be like, oh, well, I wanted to put slow on this axe, but it's not built for that, so I can't do it. That seems strange. I guess if you were a fighter at a high enough level, then you would just do it based on your class. You could just have multiple properties on a single weapon. What else do these notes say? Barbarian does not. It's specific to fighter. Feat is similar to magic initiate. Some weapons are adjusted beyond just the mastery stuff. The trident damage changed. It's now actually different from spears. The lance and the war pick were apparently adjusted. Design notes are included in UA to give thoughts on design choices as well as provide a map. Okay, well, here's my thoughts, wizards, if anybody's listening. It's overcomplicated. Keep the mastery list. Nix that whole row from the chart. It's unnecessary. It's confusing. It's restrictive. Just make the properties and allow players to obtain them however they want to, and just put it on whatever weapon they want to. And if somebody wants to argue about how it's not justified, then explain it away in your game. I just don't see why. I just can't imagine justifying the manpower and woman power spent brainstorming, sitting in a room, talking about which weapon gets which thing. Am I crazy to say that? I don't think so. I think it seems a little excessive. And I feel like I've already spent too much time talking about this stuff. I'm going to look more into it and give more feedback. There is still time, I think, before they close that off but I mean, this is just from out of the gate what I'm looking at with the weapon stuff. It already seems too busy. You just it's like you almost got it, but it's don't make it weapon specific. It's just gonna create problems, and there's no reason to do that. Just let them have the things, and they can obtain them through weapon mastery or whatever. It'll be cool enough that they get a thing. Then they could just put it on whatever their weapon is. Happy camper, But that's just what I think about it. I'll talk more about what my thoughts are on the playtest next week, but hopefully that gives you somewhat of an idea, Lauren. I think that the new stuff can be... And listen, this is why we playtest. I shouldn't be so critical, because this is why they put it out, so that people can give them feedback like this. I think it's too busy. And as somebody who really, really loves customization, I would be really pissed if I found out that the weapon I wanted can't have that property. And setting it up this way is just, it leads itself to that happening frequently for people. So just have the mastery, the weapon mastery things. I think they're cool enough as they are alone. And then assign, I mean, really, if you wanted to, you could just put it in mechanics that you could do a lot of this stuff, but you're not going to do that. So just leave the mastery how it is and just put it on whatever weapon you want. And next week, we'll talk more about other playtest stuff. I'll make it a thing where we just kind of talk more about it, because we've already spent a good amount of time, more time than I realized we would spend on it. So thank you for the question. And I encourage everybody to go check out the playtest material and look into it, see what you like, what you don't like. Give them your feedback. Hopefully that they're listening. It seems that they are. Probably more now than they were 6 months ago. All right, so let's move on to the next question. The next question is, according to my list O names, is from Brack. And this is actually an old question from a while ago, but I was going through emails and came across it and thought that this was kind of cool, because I'd be interested to hear what chat says. Brack asks, the party walks into a room. There's a table in the center of the room with a goblet sitting on it. Nothing else in the room. No other exits that you can see. What do you do? So there are a couple of ways I can answer this question. The first way that I'll answer it is as the type of player that I am, which is that I'm already holding the goblet is the thing. Like, so you go into the room and it's like, oh man, what's going on? I've already picked it up. So hopefully it's not something that's going to result in people dying or being hurt, but it could. Now, if I am not just doing whatever I want to do, if I'm taking into account and consideration the rest of the party, I mean, it's a detect magic first. Yeah? I'd say. You do investigation, but you always, what did they call it? It was an Arcana check in 3.5. Run that. Run Arcana. And have the Paladin detect evil. Those are the first 2 steps. Nobody move. Nobody move. Detect magic. Detect evil. And then we see. But if I'm being honest as to what my knee-jerk reaction would be, I'm picking it up. And very likely it's a cursed item that sets off some Indiana Jones type trigger. More than once that's happened to me. One time I was playing, I think I might have told this story, but one time I was playing on Roll20 with some people. I was as a player, and the DM was going on and on about what was going on, and I just was moving my character on the screen, and the other 2 players were like trying to have a conversation, I guess, or a plan about what was going on, but I just moved my guy into my little reticle, my little icon into the center of the thing. And the DM was like, is that where you're moving? And I was like, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing. And it triggered a water elemental that we probably wouldn't have had to fight if I would have just not done that, but I just can't help myself, Just always like poking the bear to start the problem. Whoever has the highest perception stat, they roll 2. Yeah, definitely. So just a straight up perception, yes, because, you want to account for the non-spiritual things, I guess. Anything that you couldn't cover in detect magic or evil, you should be able to detect in perception. Check for poison. Have you guys thought of doing a Pathfinder 2 episode? No, it is. Don't be sorry for the question. I'm always happy for the questions. I've debated doing Pathfinder edition for sure. It's a matter of how I would do it, because for one, I don't want to be too mean and off-putting to wizards. Not that I'm worried about wizards' feelings. I shouldn't say that, but like, I guess like the popular fan, the average fan who's like a fan of D&D, who like maybe doesn't really mess with Pathfinder that much. I just don't want to make anyone feel alienated for not playing or enjoying Pathfinder, and it's just it has such a place in my heart that I feel like a lot of those jokes would cut really hard. So I think for me, it's just a matter of it's a matter of timing is the short answer. The timing hasn't been right for it to come yet. So it will come. I'm confident that time will come, and I will get to make a Pathfinder edition. I do want to make a meta edition where the meta edition, I think, would be where everybody is somebody else. We kind of did that with Quarantine, but that was just me being everyone. But someone had suggested at some point there being an episode where they play each other, which would be really fun. And maybe not even like their characters. Maybe they play each other. Their PC is each other's real life persona, which would be crazy meta. So, yeah, something like that. Wizards have no feelings, that's for sure. Any thoughts on Critical Role making a TTRPG? I mean, Critical Role is going to Critical Role. They're like an empire now. It doesn't surprise me. it'll probably be really successful. Good on them. Oh, hey, what's up, Song? I do not have anything negative to say about Critical Role. I'm kind of I don't know. I don't know if I would say apathetic, ambivalent, maybe. I don't know. I don't have a very strong feeling about them one way or the other. So in terms of their TTRPG, I guess I would say that I'd feel the same as I do about any of these third-party TTRPGs. I think it's good for the space overall. I think that it's great because it encourages other people to, it's kind of what Wizards once was. So, rather VLDL make their own TTRPG. Yeah, Viva La Dirt League. Yeah, those guys are really smart and funny. Could do it with secondary characters playing the core. False Hydras. Yeah, we're going to have that conversation too, River. I came across that question recently and debated tackling it, decided against it, but it's coming because I've been thinking about it. That's a really cool thing, the False Hydra. We'll have that discussion for sure one day. All right, let's move along. We answered that, yeah? What do we do? Detect magic, detect evil, roll for perception, and or pick up the goblet and see what happens. I mean, if you push me into a corner in D&D and give me one option, I'm gonna take it. It's no fear. It's nothing for me to roll up another character. I've done it before. So, all right, let's move along. The next question we have, thank you, Brack, by the way. The next question we have is from Oliver. And Oliver asks, Dungeon Master emergency in need of bard advice. I think I really messed up in giving my party an arguably OP item. Oh, well, if you think it's arguable, then it probably is. I'd rather not take it away entirely, so I was hoping on some advice on how I might balance it. Thank you in advance for any and all advice. Well, I don't know what the item is because you didn't tell me, but that's okay. I guess it doesn't really matter. My initial reaction to this with the OP item would be to restrict it with magic. So this is a great example. Pay attention, DMs. This is a great example of when to use the DM because I said so kind of mentality. Not necessarily that attitude. You don't want to necessarily be like, oh, well, I just mean like mechanically, right? This is a thing that maybe, whoops, you didn't prepare for. Whoops, gave them too strong a thing. It's very easy for you to walk that back by just saying that, like, it stops working. And, if they protest, it's like, if they're angry about that, well, then that's a plot point. Investigate why it's not working. I don't know why it's not working. It's just not working. You figure it out. The other thing I thought of is that you can also have someone in the world with the same item. That would be kind of fun. That might be a more fun way to do it. It's more reactionary, but I also think that it might humble them. So maybe they think, whoa, man, look at this really cool thing, this ancient thing. And then like the next time they're in a bar, they see another one. And it's like some, just some regular dude has one. And he's like, oh yeah, this thing, yeah, it's cool, huh? That could be cool. Let's see what chat says, what some of their suggestions are. You could make the item have daily usage limits and have it take time to recharge. That's a good one, Pirate said. Yeah, for sure. That's a great idea. That's easy. Make it use restricted. So, if they go and use it to blast a bunch of people, whoops, hey, it's not working anymore. You can only do that once a day, turns out. That's a really easier way to do it. Make a specific enemy that's searching for the weapon to drain the power from it. Oh, yeah, that's a cool one, River. So, yeah, there's your explanation, by the way, for it to just stop working. That's almost assuredly how I would handle that situation. If I gave somebody something that was too powerful, I would be like, oh, how do I nerf this? Oh, okay, well, it doesn't work. Either it doesn't work at all or it doesn't work in the way you expected. And then, hey, there's a side quest. There's a whole subplot that you've created in your mistake of just being like, oh, yeah, so it stopped working. You don't know why, but, maybe you can investigate where, maybe you can go back to where you got it or ask around. Any number of reasons for them to not be able to at least do the type of damage that it seems you fear they might. Just talk to the player and maybe scale it back. Yeah, you could always do that too. If you didn't want to create yourself a whole subplot story of what happened with it or explain that or write plot for that, you could always just say, hey guys, listen, can I have a mulligan here? Like, I think that this is a little OP and I kind of want to scale it back a little bit or restrict it in some way. But I think that maybe the middle ground for that might be Pirate's suggestion. I think the middle of that would be to limit the uses per day. That's the easiest thing. And, you might get some pushback. Be prepared for people to be like, well, what are you talking about? But hey, you're the DM. Sometimes you have to do that. It's one of the unfortunate truths of, especially if you're a forever DM, is sometimes you have to be like, no, I said so. Because, again, I think it comes back to, like, what everybody's there to do. So if the goal is to have fun, cool. Everybody wants to have fun. If your goal is to, quote-unquote, win, that can change things in the party. But I think you can very easily fix this issue by either of those options. You can restrict it by usage, whether it's only once a day. You could just turn it off and give subplot and side quest info for that. Or you could just have an honest IRL conversation with the party and be like, listen, this thing's too broken. Let's dial this back a little bit. I think we can all agree. So, yeah, communication is always good. Didn't read the fine print when they said it could only be used 3 times a day. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, use the... Also, I would say, in that vein, use the circumstances around which they obtained the item as much as you can. So, for example, if this is something that they just, like, found in a cave, they have no real reason to understand its full properties. If it's something that came with, like, a receipt of sale, maybe there was small writing on the back that they didn't read the first time. So, however they got the item, try to use that to your advantage in explaining away its nerfing. That makes sense. So, thank you, Oliver. Appreciate the question. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an answer. Who did we draft? Is anybody watching the draft, by the way? There's a question about sports coming up, but if anybody's watching the draft, can you tell me who we drafted? Because I don't know. I'm not watching. We being the Jaguars. Who did we draft in round 3? Because I don't know. We drafted a tight end in round 2, which was strange. Which is doubly funny because the guy's name is strange. We drafted somebody from Oklahoma. I know we drafted Anton Harrison last night, OT. I'm really stoked about that. I can't believe we drafted a tackle. All right, let's talk some more D&D stuff because we got another question here from an Andrew. And Andrew asks, my group and I just wrapped up a 2 years plus homebrew campaign. Sweet. That said, I'm retiring my PC and creating a new one for a new adventure. Awesome. The trouble is, I'm not the best at naming. For context, this character's name was Sam. Just Sam. I'd like this character to have a cooler or more memorable name. Any advice on how to pick one? Do you have a process? Thanks. One moment. Oh, sorry. I didn't get get a little sip of water. Naming. What is in a name? I don't have a process, so I'll say that. Name generators are always great. You can always just go to name generators. Those are always fun. Fantasy name generator. Even if you don't like the name that you're given, you can kind of piece together. You know what? That's what my process is. My process is going to like a fantasy name generator, and depending on whatever it is, and some of them are super advanced. The one that I'm talking about, you could just search. If you just search like fantasy name generator, it'll probably come up. There's a whole bunch of them on that one generating website. So you could just generate general character names, but you can generate based on race and all kinds of different stuff. Like you can generate based on like dwarves or elves and then when you get those lists, because they'll give them to you 10, 15 at a time, you just cut and paste what you like and what you don't like. I would say a kind of a cool rule of thumb, at least for last names I've found, is how does it go? It's noun verb, or is it verb noun? I don't know. One of the character names I like that I've had before was Atlas Wingstep, Lavina Stillgust. A lot of the dwarves have dwarves and gnomes have like stone names. Let's see what chat says. Take names from things you like and combine things from your own name. Old Method was reading all the names that come at the end of the movie. Oh, there you go. Yeah, movie credits. There's a bunch of names there. Tordek Toran was my dwarf name. Happy Cup. Fantasy. Wait a minute. Hold on. Somebody said something about name generators. But now I don't know where it is. An old MySpace quiz. A street you grew up in, first pet's name. Yeah, you could do that. That one's fun. Let's see if I can remember. I think I do remember. This was the rules. Now, keep in mind, this was when I was in high school. This was not pre-internet, but definitely like pre-YouTube, like lots and lots of people, pre-everybody online for sure. The MySpace stuff. So I remember when we came up with our Star Wars names, and I was always told, by peers, by friends that were also high schoolers, that you would use that to determine your Star Wars name. It is the first 3 letters of your last name combined with the first 2 of your first name. And then your last name is the first 2 letters of your last name and the last 3 letters. The last 3 letters of which are the first 3 letters of the city that you were born in or something. So anyway, as a result, my Star Wars name was Batch Bagai, which I thought was super cool. And in fact, I even was writing a little bit of a fanfic Star Wars novel based on that character. But I think, Andrew, that any of those methods would be good for you. I would start with a name generator. Oh, it was Jeremy that said it. Either use fantasy name generator or name with a thematic concept. Yeah. So you can always go based on your character as to what their name would be. So if it's, somebody that's like a tough guy, maybe you use that as sort of your guidance on naming. If that's not as much of a concern for you, then I'd say just go with the generator and then just kind of do how you want. You find a piece that you like here and a first name that you like here and a last name that you like there and put them together, and there you go. There's your character. Fantasy generator, fantasynamegenerators.com. Thank you, River. River's linked it there, and I should put that in the description. I'll tell you. I'll copy it for later. I guess I could do it now, but I don't want to mess anything up. I feel like we got a good groove going. So fantasynamegenerators.com. That's where I'd start, Andrew, and then just kind of go from there. site does more than just name generators. Oh, okay, cool. Good to know. Well, thank you, Andrew, for the question. Hopefully that answers it. We have a couple of more as we gear down here in the last... Man, I can't believe we're already over the halfway mark. I feel like this thing goes by faster every week. But that's a good problem to have, you know? It means we're having a good time. So, Sam Jr. All right, come on, Nebraska. They want it to be fun and cool. Maybe that's what I should have just said. I should have just been like, just name him Sam Jr. Next. That would have been really funny. Oh, Avram, good call. Hey, you could make their initials Sam. So you keep that Sam character alive there in their initials. I do that kind of stuff all the time. All right, so this next question is from Ben. And Ben asks, last week you brought up the NBA playoffs. Do you have a favorite team to win? And do you like or watch any other sports? Oh boy, yeehaw howdy, sports. I actually am a relatively big sports fan, which is strange. I know that a bunch of people just tuned out, but I wanted to do this question partly because we're in the midst of the NBA playoffs and what are turning out to be a really interesting and crazy set of NBA playoffs, if you ask me. But of course, this is the weekend of the NFL draft. That's happening. And then we're also in the middle of the NHL playoffs as well. So there's a lot of sports happening at the moment. I've always been a football fan my whole life. My mom my mom's the biggest football fan I know, at least college ball for sure. And, you know, my grandparents, I grew up in a football house that was a thing that people were watching. So it was almost, growing up in the South, it's kind of a thing. And then basketball, I don't know. I've always, you know what it is about basketball? And I think I've talked about this before too. It's almost like a D&D party. And that is different from stuff like soccer and football where there's a bunch of players on either side. And hockey kind of, but hockey, everyone really does essentially the same kind of thing, or at least is capable of doing the same kind of thing. I think that basketball is the smallest team sport wherein everyone has a role, in my estimation. So everybody there, obviously there are positions, right, that are supposed to do certain things, but then you also have the role players. I don't know. And it's also like theater and drama, it's a little different than basketball. I think it's or than football rather. I think it's a little more intimate. On football, you're on like this big field and it's about land acquisition. Basketball is a little more intimate. Like it's a little bit more smaller. At least it feels such. It's indoors. It's all happening right here. And it's constant motion, like soccer, as opposed to football where there's a lot of waiting and sitting around. Not so much in basketball. It's pretty much they just go. So, yeah, I love basketball and football. Hockey's cool. I don't follow hockey like I used to. Interestingly, funny enough, considering the Bolts, I know, have won the cup a couple times in these last few years. Not been as big into hockey, but I also like cricket, but I don't follow it all that much. It's just kind of, if I see it in passing or I see like clips on, I watch a lot of that stuff on YouTube, I guess, like clips of matches. And, I kind of will pay attention to fighting depending on who it is. But yeah, I'm a sports fan. And there's not a whole lot of crossover with that. Sometimes there are. Sometimes I talk to people who are like, oh yeah, I'm a basketball fan. And then other times, most of the time, at least in this space, in the D&D space, it's like, what the hell are you talking about? Sports ball? What? But occasionally, there are people where there's crossover there. I find that I play I've played 2K basketball, the video game, since the beginning. And with the 2K games, I treat them like role-playing games. Which, while I'm talking about this, hey 2K, write your my careers better. Just do that. Just write them. But put more effort into these games. I understand that we're in this world now where it's just like, oh man, it's August, time to get the new 2K and hope it's not trash. But these last couple of iterations, man, they put so much focus on like the marketing aspect and the competitive aspect that it's like you're asking me to pay a AAA game price for this game. The storyline is just like an afterthought. The plot of the new 2K23 My Career is essentially that everyone hates you. Have fun. I don't know. We need some changes to be made in 2K when it comes to, I don't know, caring about what you produce. The last several games have all just essentially looked the same with different themes. On a cruise ship, it's goofy. Spend more energy in, or call me. Send me an email. I'll write you a plot that's better than that for the 2K game. That way people who are playing it as an RP will do it. The Adventure Zone. No, I am not on that podcast. But I think I've heard of that podcast before. So, well, thanks for the question about sports. Gave me a minute to rant a little bit about, my disdain for 2K and their bad single-player RPG aspect of their games, which is so crazy. Like, it's like, how is the company that was responsible for Oblivion the same, well, at least partially, right? The same company that just continues to just dispense these 2K games every 11 months, and they're not better. 2K Chaz Edition, the players break from basketball and play a TTRPG tournament. Yeah. I don't know. It just seems, don't write for free. Oh, yeah, well, no, I would never write for free. I would have a hefty fee, but I'd be cheaper than whoever you're paying now, and whoever that is not good at what they're doing. When it comes to engaging the player and making them feel accomplished, that has just totally gone to the wayside and been replaced with this like freemium microtransaction, buy our season pass, compete for this league nonsense. Just make good games again, please. Rant over. All right, we got a couple of more questions. So let's grab those real quick before we get out of here. Where are the names? Oh, no, I see what I've done. I've moved away from the names. Okay, here we go. Here are the names. So this next question is from Kayla. Kayla asks, "Hi, Bard, long-time listener, first-time questioner. Speaking of first, next month I'm officially running my first campaign as DM. Nice. One of the party members joked about how my plot hook lends itself to splitting the party. Oh no. How can I discourage that behavior before it starts and keep it from becoming a problem in the future?" Well, there are a number of ways that you can do that. I would say one good, easy way to do it is to force a common goal, or rather a common incentive, right? So one way to do that might be you have maybe someone's hunting the party or after the party or looking for them. Even if just that knowledge didn't deter them from splitting the party, it could at least position you to, if they do split the party, just kidnap one of them or something without feeling a certain type of way because you gave them proper warning, as it were. I'd say incentivizing them to stay together through any number of means. So you haven't started the campaign, which is good. I think what will answer this question for you is you and the players being very transparent with one another about what your goals are and what you're doing, but then also like what their players' incentives are for participating in whatever this thing is. Now, I don't know why the player, maybe they were just saying that to throw you off. It's possible. I'm unsure why a player would think that a particular plot hook would lend itself to splitting the party. I mean, the only thing I could think of is like if it's a plot hook where there are lots of, I don't know, where there's like different pieces to a puzzle and you have to gather them all and bring them all together, and then it's like, okay, well, if we just do that quickly, we can all just go get one and then come back. But I don't I think that you need to figure out what everybody's individual IRL incentives are, as well as their PC's incentives. So what are their characters doing there? Because to be honest, splitting the party can kind of happen anytime for a number of reasons, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with the plot. So I would say, first of all, to not feel a certain type of way about your plot, don't go like panickedly rewriting your stuff because of that comment. Because again, for one, it could have just been a joke. It could have just been this player just trying to mess with you. Because especially if they know it's your first time DMing and they just want to like kind of freak you out a little bit. But I would say that if you felt that they were serious and they intend to do that and you want to avoid that, I think that putting them in a perilous scenario is a backup plan to what I think the first plan is, which is to figure out how to align incentive. So let's say you've got this dude who's this tough guy and all he cares about is getting stronger. That's his goal, is to get stronger. And then you come to this plot point where it's like, oh man, we got to go and investigate this library. Dude is going to be like, well, I don't want to do that. I want to get stronger, so I'm going to stay here and train. An easy way to align incentives in that would be to dangle the carrot of some sort of item or ability that they would obtain by going. So that's like a simple plot point of just being like, oh, well, if you're getting the vibe, because you'll probably be able to catch it before they actually say it outright. But if you're getting a vibe that it's like, this is an opportunity to split the party, lay out the incentive for them. So at a minimum, it'll be a tough decision for them to split. Because if you tell that same guy about the library that there's a rumor that there's a book in there that if you read it, you'll get this, you'll be able to learn some special ability, some special combat maneuver or something. All of a sudden, he wants to go to the library. So let's see what chat's saying. I don't adjust encounters for split party. My players know that from the start. Well, that's fair. Yeah. And again, we've talked about that before ad nauseum. That's about expectation and about setting the expectation for what's happening and what everybody's doing. Sometimes it can be spontaneous. And I'm a party splitter. I'm a dude that'll be like, I'll just go over here. Well, how about this? Let's meet up later. We'll do a rendezvous. I'm always that person. So I have been deterred as a player myself in the past by that kind of incentivization of, what it is we're doing. Now, that said, you shouldn't feel like you have to rewrite all of your stuff and have that happen all the time. I would say that per Bird's point about, players knowing that from the start, if this is something that's a concern for you and it's serious, I think that you should let that be known to the party straight up and be like, listen, I know that Andy here or whoever was joking about this thing being a split the party scenario, but don't do that. It probably honestly they were probably just messing with you. I can't imagine that, part of the problem with splitting the party is that usually not everybody agrees to it. So there's almost a built-in thing to it where you would hope that there would at least be one person at the table that's like the Chucky Fenster, that's like, well, I don't know, guys, should we really send half of us into the woods and the other half into the cave? We could all die. So, and then, of course you don't want to put that on them, but I would say, listen, like, I don't want you guys to be splitting the party. I'm going to do my best to make sure that doesn't happen, but I would appreciate you guys, not making that a main goal. And as usual, I think that just conversation and communication will address a lot of those concerns, because very likely the person will probably just be like, oh, well, hold on. No, listen, I was just joking. It almost feels like that will assuredly be the case. If for any reason it's not, and they're like, no, I'm serious, we're going to split the party a lot, then you need to say, like, okay, well, then that's going to be a problem. And just kind of take it from there. Party members can't stand each other. This channel is pretty interesting. Oh, well, thank you. All the characters are addicted to whiskey, but only one player has a whiskey nipple. Yeah. I think that aligning incentive on the fly, I think that that's just good practice anyway, but I think that it's a way that you as the DM, if it's a spontaneous situation that you want to try to avoid, that's the easiest way to do it. In your case, the campaign hasn't even started yet, so I would just voice the concern. I would just say what you said to me. Just be like, hey, so you've been saying that you're going to split the party. I don't want that to happen. And I could imagine that, they want you to have fun too, your players. They should. So that's how I would do it. Oh, the adventures of Mustang Peppercorn. We all almost died when we should have died. Yeah. Or, well, we should have died. Yeah. I've been in that scenario way more than once. Communication expectation setting is so useful. Most definitely. Just talk to people, Let them know. Especially if these are people that, was it you that's... Oh, no, that was Andrew. You said that you're DMing for the first time. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, if it's people that you're friends with and you intend on playing with for a long time, definitely have the conversation. Just get used to doing that now. It might feel uncomfortable, but I think that even if the outcome is one that is not what you wanted, I think that ultimately voicing your concern is the best method of going about it. So thank you for the question, Kayla. Hopefully that helps you. We are down to one last question here, folks. And we're already looking at 1 hour. And from what I can see, everything seems to be going along smoothly in terms of the stream and record, which makes me very happy. Because then, once I'm done with this, I can just walk away because I don't have to worry about the VOD because I've already got it. Isn't that cool? Saving this last question from Chris. You thought we were going to have an episode without a Chris, didn't you? Ye have little faith. I don't know what you were thinking we were going to have an episode of this show without a question from Chris. But I think that this one's a little old too. But again, like I said, I was digging through emails this afternoon. So let's see what Chris says. Chris asks, have you ever been recognized out in the wild? Well, first of all, let's specify, I don't go out in the wild if we're talking about like the woods or camping or any of that stuff. Obviously, I know what you mean. Just out and about, IRL. It has happened a couple of times. It happens, I don't know, maybe a couple of times a year. Not too often. Part of that is because I don't go out much. I really don't. And the thing about being recognized that's weird is that it almost always is from, if it's not from a different place, or rather a different property, it's from a different platform. So let me elaborate on that. Like, sometimes people will be like, hey, you're the Man Shorts guy. And then other times people will be like, you're that rapper guy. And then sometimes, one time a guy a couple of months ago I ran into at Walmart was like, hey, are you on TikTok? He's like, do you make TikTok videos? And I had to think, because like at first I was like, no. And then I was like, well, I mean, I guess, because at the time I didn't really make that many, but I'd made a few. And I don't consider myself a TikToker first. So when he said that, like, oh, you're the TikTok guy, I was like, what? I also never know how to respond. Ever. I don't know that I do it well at all. It's a very weird thing, because I don't know how I'm supposed to respond. And I don't think that anyone has an expectation of me when they see me and they're like, oh, hey. But it is just like, I don't know. It's like two ships passing in the night, right? Because we're total strangers. And I don't know, for somebody to just be, it's always nice. I'm not complaining. I always feel very flattered, and I think it's cool. You know, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like, you know, I'm doing somewhat good for the planet, at least, you know, making people laugh or inspiring people to create stuff, which is my main goal. So it's not like it happens all the time. I can go out. I'm not like a celebrity. But yeah, I mean, every couple of months or so, I'll be in like the grocery store and somebody will be like, oh, Florida man. And so it's I will say the most interesting thing about it is that like it's always a little bit different, which is nice. It's not like, and I think part of that is because I just make so much different stuff. But then also, like, you know, we have people that exclusively watch content on like Facebook, or there are people that exclusively watch my content on TikTok and don't know. And so there's a whole subset of people that like my rap and TikTok stuff and don't even know about Man Shorts. So it's a bit of an interesting position to be in, because it's kind of like, initially I have to kind of figure out like where and what you know me from, and then kind of just go from there to just be as gracious as I can be about it, and try to be. Like, I don't ever want to make people feel weird for saying something, you know? But then I also don't want to be like Mr. Big Shot, like, yeah, it's me. Did you want a selfie? You know, like, I'm not going to be that guy. So it's tricky to navigate. I will say this. If you ever see me in public, feel free to approach me and say something. And keep in mind that I'm just as like nervous as you are in the interaction, because it's like, you know, but it's all good. It's all love, you know? If you see me at Walmart and you want to say hi, you go right ahead, pal. I'll say hi. I might not be like as cool as maybe you think I might be. I don't know. I don't know why I said that. I don't know why anyone would think that I would be too cool. Imagine. Yeah, you know, I'd really like to approach that guy, but he just seems too cool. He's just too cool of a guy. No, definitely not. I'm a regular person. Just come say hi. Blasting Attack of Opportunity earlier. Oh, thank you. I'm glad I was able to sort all of that nonsense out with like, so I won't be annoyed. No, I wouldn't be annoyed. No. I'm not at a level where I would even I mean, the audacity to be like, ugh, get away. I mean, unless you're like Britney Spears or those BTS guys, I don't know how much of a justification you have for being that way to people in public. But I also don't have experience with being that famous. You know, I think about a lot of stuff that like Eminem said on his early records about fame and think like, yeah, It is kind of a nightmare because, I say now, sure, approach me, no problem. But I might feel differently if I had like 40 million followers. It's just a different thing. But I kind of prefer staying sort of like small and mighty, quality over quantity, etc. I would rather do this show for these, 50, 60, 80 people once a week for the next 10 years than, do a show that I didn't really like for a million people. It's just, yeah, stay grounded. Yeah, I try to. The way I am. Yes, that one comes to mind in particular, River, for sure. But yeah, so I have been recognized. I feel like I'm the perfect amount. I feel like I have the perfect level of like notoriety online, because it's like every 4 or 5 months somebody will like, say hi and thanks for the vids and you're so cool. And then I don't have to deal with that for like another 6 months. It's not like it's something where it's like every time I go out, which I imagine if you're those people like Britney Spears or the BTS kids or Eminem, you can't go to the store. Eminem can't go to the store. So I want to be able to favorite M song. That's too hard. I can't. There's too many. Maybe Till I Relax. No, Till I Collapse. Not Till I Relax. Till I Collapse. It's up there. I like a lot of Relapse stuff too. I think Relapse was underrated. I really like that album. Yikes, McGillicuddy. Here we are, gang. Already here at the end. Just talking about music and hanging out. Soldier. Oh, wow. Yeah, I'd forgotten about Soldier. I'm a soldier. That's a really good song. Dude, the Eminem Show in general, that album came out when I was like 15. I think I was like a sophomore in high school. Yikes. I mean, obviously, I think that from a discography standpoint, the Marshall Mathers LP is stronger, right? But man, there are some bangers on the Eminem Show. White America is on the Eminem Show. Till I Collapse is on there. That's a really good one. And Encore, I think, doesn't get enough credit either. There's some bangers on that album. Yellow Brick Road is good. I don't know why people hate on Encore or Relapse, but then they love Recovery. And it's like, I don't even like that album. I always forget that you and I are close in age. Yeah, I'll be 36 next month. I am 35. So, yeah, I was born in 87. I was, 13 when Eminem hit the scene. So, he's one of the reasons he's not the single reason, but he's a huge reason that I got into rap at all. Because, I was a white kid from the suburbs. I didn't know anything about rap other than, some stuff I'd heard on the radio. But when I heard Eminem stuff, he made me go back and, start at the beginning with all of that early stuff. So, yeah. I think, and a lot of people from my generation were that way, where it's like, we weren't even listening to hip-hop, and then this guy came along, and for me, it encouraged me to really try to become a student of hip hop, at least in terms of recognizing and understanding what the culture was, and will continue to be. And I think rap's gotten kind of into a weird place as of late, but in a good way. It's gotten super experimental. I was just talking about this with somebody recently because it's, for so long, rap's only been around since the 80s. Actual, you had MCing and beatboxing and stuff, but actual rap stuff, late 70s, early 80s. So it's not that old of a genre when you realize that it kind of peaked in its popularity, funny enough, around the Recovery era of Eminem when he put out Not Afraid, dude, and then Drake and all of them. That was, I think, where we passed the event horizon with hip hop in its popularity. And so now, because we're over that hurdle, it's just become completely experimental. And some of the stuff that these guys are doing these days is crazy. I mean, some of these cats are like a mixture of like hip hop and screamo, and like, you know, if you took like My Chemical Romance and Slipknot and like the 369 Boys and stuff, it's like, it's very unique and weird and challenging and interesting. So I don't know how we got there, but let's wrap this up, gang. We are at 111. I'm surprised we've gone this far. I shouldn't say what the time is because it's going to be a different time on the audio. That'll be a different time, dude. I thank you all so much for joining me this evening. I appreciate you hanging around. And oh, wow, we did it. That's 20 episodes, gang. Now, moving forward, we're living on borrowed time as far as I'm concerned, right? Like this is extra innings, bonus overtime to do anything past 20, right? Because we know statistics tell us most podcasts don't go past episode 20. And I got to be honest, I feel like we're just getting into the swing of this thing. I really am enjoying the heck out of this podcast and spending time with you guys. I mean, it's just, I got to make it to 69 at least. Yeah, I mean, 20 is fantastic. Happy for the 20 episodes. So happy for the 20 episodes. Oh yeah, did we miss 420? No, it was last week. What a stoner thing to say. Did we miss it? Oh no, we already did it. I just forgot. Listen, folks, thank you so much for hanging out. The email is bardadvice@gmail.com. If you are so inclined, you have a question that you think needs answering, please send it over to bardadvice@gmail.com. Another reminder to grab your merch at manshorts.com. And any contributions that you would like to make to what I am doing musically, i.e. right now with my third album, Organized Lightning, that I'm hoping to have released by the summer, you can do so via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik. Thank you all so much for joining, and for joining every week. I appreciate all of the patrons, the super chats, all of the people here that just show up in chat just to talk. It's always, please like. Thank you for all the likes. Thank you for all the stuff. We will be here next week. Same Bard time, same Bard channel. I hope that you all have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you next time.